Welcome, friends, family, and aspiring cult leaders, to another episode of the DJP. Okay, so last week I was going through a bit of a dark night of the soul moment. My brain was up to its old habits of trying to play tricks on me like some sort of perverse fucking jester of the soul or something, and it essentially robbed me of any form of self-worth that I thought I had, and that's something that I've been working on for a while, so for that to be taken away in that moment felt pretty devastating, because it fucking sucks! And, I've been doing really well in that department, which is a totally new thing for me because I used to live in that space of low self-worth and efficacy like all the time. And now I'm just an occasional tourist. And I don't want to go there at all, though, because it's a shitty place to even visit. It's possibly the worst fucking vacation spot in the world. And it lives inside of our brains. I know I'm not alone in this, so when I was given the opportunity to rant about my own bullshit, I figured I wouldn't hold anything back, and that way we can all benefit from my neuroses, right? That's what I thought. Anyway, fortunately for all of us, my guest, Nari Anastarsia, was happy to oblige me and listen to literally all of my bullshit for well over an hour, because she's fucking awesome. You know what else is awesome? She's an intuitive spiritual guide. She's an artist, she's a holistic counselor, a complementary therapist, an author. She's done a lot of really cool shit. And she's a super fucking dope ass fucking person. Like, really. I could sense her energy immediately when I started talking to her, and she was just an awesome guest, and I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. So, without further ado, Nari Anastarsia.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of a hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. Using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
Nari Anastarsia, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you, Justin. How are you?
To be honest, I have had better days. I'm not terrible, but I'm okay. I'm for the most part okay. I'm not great, if we're being honest. But, it'll pass. It is what it is, right?
Look, it's a bit like that for a lot of people right now, to be honest. There's a lot of people going through, a bit of a chapter of not feeling so great, especially with everything that's been going on around the world.
Yeah.
So, but it's also a wonderful time to just reflect.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's given pretty much everyone the opportunity to reflect. And it seems like it because of that, everybody's making a lot of really tough decisions lately. There's a lot of people quitting their jobs. There's a lot of people just not going back to their jobs. It seems to be a pretty big shift going on in consciousness and just self-worth in general. I think people are actually starting to realize maybe they're worth a little more than they thought they were, and they started treating themselves as such. I wish I could figure that out.
Look, it's for me personally, this period has been pretty fantastic. Look, I know, like I said, a lot of people are going through a bit of a hard time, but I've just been using this period to go within myself and see what comes up for me, and if a little bit of anxiety or what have you comes up, I see it as a wonderful opportunity to go in and explore. Well, hold on, where is this energy coming from, and why do I feel this way?
Right. Definitely. Definitely.
So it's just fantastic. And I feel like a lot of people during this time have this wonderful opportunity to awaken to the magnificent light that they are.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm a big proponent of Vipassana or insight meditation. And so that, this is nothing new for me. Deep introspection is nothing new. I'm always digging up new things about myself. Fortunately and unfortunately, sometimes they're a little hard to work through. Lately, we were before we started the interview, we were talking about manifestation, right? And you want to go? We'll just kind of kick that off where we were discussing. You said you got a message there, or you were tagged in a post and about manifestation. You want to kind of elaborate on that? And
Sure. So recently I was tagged on a post, and a girlfriend tagged me and said basically how the universe seems to answer me all the time, but it never seems to answer her. And I got to read a few other posts, a few comments on this post. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were agreeing with my girlfriend and how the universe seems to always step on them and, make life difficult for them. And I didn't answer my girlfriend on this comment, but it really struck a chord within myself.
Right.
Because I had a lot to say on the topic. Mm. And so basically, the reason why people feel that way, it all comes down to vibration. Mm. It all comes down to vibration, a vibrational light. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to get challenges in life. Life is like a wheel. Sometimes we're at the top and sometimes we're at the bottom. And this is for everybody, not just a few people. It's for everybody. Life is in constant motion. Yeah. But like I said, my girlfriend would look at me and think, well, hold on, you always seem to manifest and you always seem to get what you want. But again, it doesn't mean that I don't go through the harder times of being at the bottom. The difference is what do I do when I'm at that bottom? What do I do when I'm faced with a challenge?
Right.
Do I, for me personally, I reflect on it. I see, well, hold on, what can I take from this experience so that I'm back on top, so that my vibration is raised and my vibration is back to being high? Because it's so easy to stay at the bottom, to dwell in whatever it is, whatever emotion we are feeling, be it frustration, anger, sadness, depression, whatever it may be. But the quickest way out of it is to reflect, well, hold on, what is the treasure within this challenge? And for, I'll give you an example. I was once faced, I was in a situation where a family member, this is many, many, many years ago, mm-hmm. was basically talking down to me. They were screaming at me. Their faces were red and, basically telling me that I wasn't a good mother because my two kids, who were in kindergarten and year one at that time didn't get A's. And I was like, I sat there listening to this person screaming and telling me that I was not a good mother because they should be getting A's. And, and I was like, in that moment when they were putting me down, criticizing me, and honestly, they went on and on, I could have very easily reacted with rage, with anger. I could have defended myself because this was coming up for me in that moment. There was a part of me that wanted to scream back and tell them to, to get lost.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I sat there quietly, listening to them. And in that moment, I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to do that. In that moment, I chose love. I got up. I went, because they were seated across me on another lounge. I got up, I went and I sat next to them. And, this was a family member, so I felt comfortable doing this. But I put my hand on their heart space very gently. And I looked into their eyes, their face all red. And I said, I love you. I know that you're saying this because it's coming from a place of love and you care. So thank you. And they literally, Justin, started to shake. I've never seen a grown adult shake and quiver. They started to shake, and they were like, yeah, I love you too. And they didn't know what to do because they did not expect me to react in that way. They expected some sort of exactly, fire.
Yeah, hostility to be met with hostility.
That's right. They expected that, and I surprised them so completely that they started to shake, and they couldn't take the shaking that they jumped up, they grabbed the cigarettes, they ran out the door, and I saw them smoking outside, just shaking. I've never in my whole entire life seen anyone shake like this. And so, like I said, so in that moment, I could have chosen two roads, like a sliding door scenario.
Right. Absolutely.
But I chose love in that moment. So every day, with all our choices, with all our challenges, we always have a choice on how we react. You see, we can't always control externally what goes on in the world, how other people act. We can't control that.
Right.
But what we do have complete control over is how we react to whatever it is that's, happening.
Right.
We have control over that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I always use the term, I respond rather than react, because reaction comes from a place of like amygdala response. That's an immediate fight, flight, or freeze response. Whereas if you actually take the time to examine the situation for what's going on and take it for what it is, it gives you the opportunity to respond rather than react.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's just about changing your perspective on things.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I would have chosen the other road, I sat there, I could have left this person's house feeling very deflated, feeling very depressed, feeling very hopeless, feeling unworthy. Right. And I could have easily carried that energy because I was quite young. I could have easily carried that energy with me unknowingly, unconsciously, and then, journeyed, gone into my life, attracting more of that like energy. Because when we hold on to that energy, be it unworthiness, hopelessness, whatever that energy may be, we hold it within us and it serves as a magnet. And we continuously attract that energy with other people, other situations that continue to further validate that feeling of hopelessness and unworthiness.
Right.
But in that moment, I chose love. So because I chose love, it put me on a road of empowerment.
Do you think that just based on what we're talking about, do you think that when you do carry that energy, that, those feelings of, like, let's say hopelessness or unworthiness, do you think it's an actual attraction of those energies, or do you think it may just be more confirmation bias, and when negative things happen, you're more apt to notice them because you're already in a lower vibrational state?
Both, Justin. Like I said, when we carry those feelings, for example, I knew someone who had, some challenges and issues with self-worth, and she felt that deep inside.
Now you know too.
She was holding that energy in her sacral space, her sacral chakra. And again, this stemmed from her upbringing, her childhood, her relationship with her father. But she held this energy within herself, and she continued to attract relationships or connections to validate, validate that unworthiness.
Right.
So they would always pick someone else over her. They would always put her down. They would never see her as being girlfriend material, and that was simply reflecting the energy she was holding in her sacral.
Right.
So it's like it all comes down to self-love. The more love we have for ourselves, Justin, the more that love will be reflected back to us via the universe.
Right.
So in terms of going back to what we were talking about, in terms of that topic of manifestation in the universe, it all comes back to self-love. How much do we truly love ourselves? Because the more we love ourselves, my God, opportunities, manifestation, our ability to attract, this is all amplified.
Right.
it all comes back to self-love. And often in a lot of my sessions with clients, one of the questions I always ask my clients is, how much do you love yourself out of 10? You know, how much do you love yourself out of 10?
Right.
And often I'd get under 6, under 5. Sometimes I get 2, you know, and I tell my clients, hey, come on, what's going on? You realize if you're going to love yourself a 3 out of 10, you're going to get a 3 out of 10 life.
Right.
Come on, let's raise that up to a 10 out of 10.
Well, how do you do that? I mean, that's easy to say to people, but how do you go about doing that?
Well, I work with them by moving, you know, working with their chakras, you know, the energy centers of the body. And I journey with them to see, well, hold on, where is this blockage coming from for them to love themselves at such a low number? And often I find that there's, you know, it stems from childhood experiences. It stems from their relationship with their parents, or perhaps, you know, they were in a relationship where they felt absolutely betrayed or heartbroken. But it always comes back to something that has, you know, that's caused them some sort of trauma, you know, or they've watched their parents and their relationship but there's always something that's from their past that's impacted, you know, my clients into feeling this way.
Yeah.
And so so I take them on a journey where they do inner child work. So to let the inner child know that, hey, I do love you. I love you. And, you know, so I carry out inner work with my clients to get them to raise their levels of love. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it definitely goes back to childhood. I know for me personally, it does. And, you know, whether it be my parents not being around as much as they probably should have been when I was younger. You know, my mom was a single parent. My dad wasn't really in the picture a lot. She worked a lot and went to school to try to better her life. But, you know, in turn, there was obviously a sacrifice that had to be made. And that sacrifice was she wasn't around a lot. So I was pretty much raised by my grandmother. And then I lost her when I was 15. And then just a series of bad relationships after that. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some deeply implanted seeds of unworthiness and, you know, not enough. And, well, yeah, so I definitely agree with that, it for sure stems from childhood, because I know it does for me. And it still manifests daily. I'm better at controlling those things. I've learned to love myself a little more than I used to. I probably used to be at about a 4 or so, maybe even lower than that at some points. I think today I'm probably around a 6 or a 7. So not drastic improvement, but, you know, there is improvement. And I think any improvement is better than none. But, you know, still, I don't feel like I'm at the point where I want to be. You know, I definitely don't love myself as much as I should. I definitely am. I don't feel like it's the universe's fault. I used to think, you know, I'd be mad at the whole universe, you know, like the whole universe is against me. You know, I had that victim mentality going on for a long time, but really it all stems down to the choices that I've made and the decisions that I've made throughout my life that have put me, you know, where I'm at today. And if I'm in a place that I'm not necessarily happy with being at, that rests solely on me. Yeah. So then that in turn just fuels those feelings of unworthiness. Like, man, I've really fucked everything up, and look where I'm at. Here I am, and now, you know, and I've lately the thing is, you know, I put a lot of energy into creative endeavors. Because, you know, I enjoy being creative. I enjoy making the podcast. I enjoy making music. I enjoy doing all these things. And ultimately, I would love to do some of them as more than a hobby. I used to play music for a living for a little while. Nice. And that was very fun. I enjoyed that. It wasn't necessarily good for my sobriety. So I had to kind of get out of that business. But lately it's been the podcast. And, you know, it's the same issues with every person that has a podcast, I'm sure, in the beginning. I've been doing it for about 1.5 years, and for sure the numbers aren't exactly where I would like them, and I'm not seeing the growth that I would like to see. And you know, then it just reinforces those feelings of unworthiness, and that's just something I've been going through a lot lately.
Okay, well, you know, the simple solution is, again, it's just, it's so simple, and it's just working on more self-love, you know, giving yourself that love. taking the time to do things that you enjoy, and again, just loving yourself, even when things are rough or you feel sometimes, sometimes we do things or we say things that we're not proud of, or we feel a certain way. And we do get upset. We do get angry from time to time. But you know what? It's loving ourselves through that also, and accepting every facet of ourselves, be
Right.
it the ones that we don't even like. There's
Absolutely.
always going to be darker shades within us. And instead of fighting it, or instead of feeling anger towards it or annoyance towards it, the greatest thing we can do, Justin, is love those shades within us, the hardest parts within us, the shades that basically make us annoyed. But it's loving those parts of us,
Right.
and accepting. It's accepting. You know what? Well, this is a part of me, and the best way to move through it is to first accept it and love it unconditionally. And you'll find by doing that, that part of you slowly starts to dissolve.
Right. Very slowly. Very slowly. Needs to hurry up. Because it would be really nice to have a different outlook on the future and on myself in general. Like I said, and it is something that has improved. It's, it hasn't stayed the same. I used to really just hate myself. Like for the majority of my life, I just hated myself. And I pretty much thought everybody else did too. I think that's pretty natural. When you don't like yourself, you're like, well, why would anybody else like me? And that's gotten a little better. I'm not going to say it's gotten a lot better, but it's gotten a little better. A couple points on the 1 to 10 scale better. But nothing life-changing though. Nothing that's just been like rapturous or you know what I mean.
But, like I said, just remember, the more you love yourself, the more that love is going to get reflected back to you. And that goes with everything: relationships, work, opportunities. You will never have to go out searching for anything. Relationships, work, anything. It all comes to you. It's like there's a beautiful saying, when the flower blooms, the bee comes uninvited. And, for me, I see that as like the chakras. When our chakras are blooming, when the flowers are blooming, so it's all open, things, opportunities, blessings, they come to us.
Right.
They always come to us. Because we trust in the flow. We trust in the universe. We trust so much that we are in flow with life. And it all again comes back down to love and acceptance.
Right. Yeah, I've always said, I do a lot of meditation, a lot of like loving kindness meditation towards myself and others, obviously. I mean, I've always deeply cared for other people, like far more than I've ever cared for myself. And that's something that I know is a hindrance to me, for sure. I should love myself equally as much as I care about other people. I'm not sure why I don't, really. It's very, very confusing and very frustrating at times.
It's okay. Like I said, take some time, look in the mirror, look into your eyes, looking deep within your soul, and say, I love you and I accept you. And you know what? Do this continuously, every day. Like every day, every night, I'll put my hand on my sacral. I'll put one hand on the heart. And I say, I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. And if I'm starting to feel under the weather, or I'm feeling like I'm going through something, I usually say a mantra that usually gets me out within 5 to 10 minutes, and my energy changes, or I literally move past feeling under the weather and I feel healthy again. And it's the mantra of, I am living the best version of myself. Right. And I say this every day within myself. I am living the best version of myself. And you continuously say that as a mantra, and you'll find that everything else will start to align to that thought pattern. Right. Your health, your life, your relationships. I'm living the best version of myself, because if you ask yourself, what does the best version of yourself look like?
Oh shit, I hope it doesn't look like what I'm living right now. I hope this isn't the best version of myself. If this is the best version of myself, I'm in trouble.
So first think about it. If you will live in the best version of yourself, what would that look like? What would that entail? What would you feel like? So first you've got to envision it, feel it, and then each day say it as your daily mantra. I am living the best version of myself. And honestly, Justin, watch things transform and watch things blossom and change, as well as complete loving and acceptance of self. And sometimes those darker shades can be hard to love.
I think one of the problems that I have, and I think that a lot of people have in general, definitely people who are neurodivergent, I think they have a hard time separating the things in their life from themselves, like the amalgamation of their failures and, their perceived very few accomplishments. In my case, it's like I've done a lot of things, but I never give myself credit for any of the things I've actually done. Just all the things that I've failed at are the ones that, that we get back into that confirmation bias, that negativity bias. And those are the things that come up. And I think, at least personally, and I would generally say that I believe this to be true for a lot of people, is that they have a hard time separating who they are at their core, like their actual character, from the trivia about them. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's like, it's so easy to get caught up in the story. It's so easy to get caught up in the ocean of emotion. And we all do it from time to time. We fall into that ocean of emotion. We get caught up. But our truth is we are all creative beings of light. Our truth is perfect love and light.
Right.
So when things start to go a little bit crazy, it's just about taking the time to go, hey, I'm getting caught up in the story. I'm getting lost in this ocean of emotion. Mm-hmm. It's about going back into that stillness within ourselves, going back to the truth of who we are.
Right.
We are love. We are already whole. We are already magnificent. We are limitless, infinite beings of light. That is our truth. All else are just layers of illusions.
Right.
And it's not about trying to attain this. It's not about learning this and trying to, it's simply removing these layers of untruths of who we think we are. It's removing these illusions. Right. They are not our truth.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, people start to believe the opinions they have of themselves a lot. And that's because that's all it is. You get into these narratives about yourself. Oh, I'm a failure. I'm not worthy. I'm this, I'm that. And those are all just your own personal opinions of yourself. They're not based in any actual reality. I mean, I know in my case, maybe I have experienced failures for sure. I've also had some successes, but I'd never defined myself as successful, though I've had success in my life. I always tend to define myself as a failure. And I think that is a major hindrance. And, I know I'm not alone in that. I was going to say, I think I'm not alone in that, but I'm 100% positive that I'm not alone in that. And it just seems to be so prevalent. There's just, everybody's so hard on themselves. And I'm the first one to notice it because I do it to myself all the time. You spot it, you got it. So, and I preach love constantly, and I am the biggest proponent of telling people, you just have to love yourself more. But then I go home and I try to hate myself better.
Oh my gosh, Justin. It's funny. When we're born with these beautiful, big open hearts, like open flowers. The world is full of opportunities. There's butterflies, there's rainbows. But as we journey through life and we experience pain, we experience betrayal, we experience hurt, and most often from the people we love most. We experience being let down, put down, abandoned. I mean, the list goes on of all the different experiences we go through. Our petals slowly start to close. because, we feel, it serves as a wall to protect us from getting hurt even further.
Yeah, for sure.
Because,
The mind comes up with these stories to protect the heart from being broken.
that's right. So we start to close our petals, and we move through life with this wall around our heart space. And, we come to a point in our life where we think, well, hold on, I feel a little stagnant. Why isn't things working for me? I don't feel like growing, or, or sometimes with some people, a lot of questions I get asked is, what is my life purpose? Why isn't this working?
Mm.
And it all comes back down to these walls we have. And often these walls, inside these walls, there's a very toxic energy, like I said, be it self-talk or putting our own selves down, self-judgment, feeling unworthy, feeling afraid. Fear is so huge. It's so huge. Fear of failure, fear of being hurt, fear of you name it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're inside these walls with this toxic energy that's keeping us in this space.
Mm.
This energy serves as a magnet to continuously attract things to validate these feelings of unworthiness or whatever it may be. If it's impatience or anger, we may be someone who consistently gets red traffic lights, but we continuously attract that. Now, the key in moving forward, the key in growing, the key into solving this and living our life's purpose with passion is to bring down these walls. And the way to bring down these walls, again, I get my clients to do this, is to put their hands on this wall that represents the different fears that they have in their life, and honestly just feel absolute unconditional love and compassion towards this wall, which represents a part of them that's being afraid, because it all comes down to fear.
Right.
It's fear or love. And the moment those walls come down, our mind is then able to connect with the heart. Because before that, when the mind tries to connect with the heart for answers, it comes up against the wall and there's blocks. But now the mind can connect to the heart space. So there's that flow of energy of where the mind can marry up with the heart and work together.
Right.
And now we have this, again, manifestation, this flow. We'll find that in our life, we will meet people to reflect that level of love instead of reflecting that, insecurity or fear or whatever it may be.
Right.
We'll start to be surrounded by reflections of love.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long process, though. Like that.
Not really. Not at all.
You don't think so? You don't think so?
Not at all, Justin. It's actually a really, really fast process, and I've helped a lot of people, and you can do it so fast. An hour, a couple of hours, you can change your life. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And, people that want relationships, get relationships, or, it takes but a moment. It's just a moment. It doesn't have to be a long process. Again, why does it need to be a long process?
I just think it potentially could be a long process. I mean, we're talking about years of conditioning to get to the place where you feel this negative way about yourself. I don't think it's something that can just be reversed overnight. And I'm just speaking from a place of personal experience. Mm-hmm. I've been working on this whole trying to love myself thing for, a few years now. It's gotten a little better, but, by no means can I legitimately say in all honesty that I love myself completely and totally. Everything about myself, I love. I can't say that, no matter how much work I've done on that. And maybe I'm just doing the wrong work. I don't know.
Look, it all depends on the process, but again, it all comes back to how much do you want this? How much do you want to grow and evolve and live the best version of yourself? How much? And for me, like, I've made some personal decisions. For me personally, it's like, I'll always choose love. I've been in situations in the past where I didn't choose love, and it didn't really go that well. And so, moving forward, it's like, I choose love.
Right.
I'm always going to choose love. And if that, sometimes that love may mean me having to walk away from a relationship, which I've also done.
Yeah.
Because I'm choosing love. And if that love means me moving away from something that's stagnant and allowing my soul to grow and to fly, I will do that, because that is the path of love for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel that for sure. Like you were talking about toxicity earlier and toxic relationships. Well, yeah, I mean, like I've been in a toxic relationship with myself for, ever. That's the biggest toxic relationship of my life is the one I have with myself. And that's the hardest one to get rid of, is that relationship. Changing the framework of that relationship has been very difficult for me.
But why is it so hard?
I don't know. If I knew that, it wouldn't be that hard, right? If I knew that, I'd had it figured out by now. If I knew what the problem was, I'd fix it.
Like, if you ask yourself, why is it so hard? If you were to visualize, a younger version of you, Justin, sitting in a room, and this younger version of you has been through a lot with his family, with his mother, with his father. And, this little boy is a little sad, and he's sitting in a room. Could you go in that room and look into that little boy's eyes and say, hey, I'm here for you. And I love you. I love you completely with all my heart and all my soul. I love you. And I promise you that I'll always be here for you.
Right.
I'll always put you first. In all I do, I promise to always be here for you. And make that promise, make that choice of absolute unconditional love, and watch it blossom, watch it grow. Yeah. Those are things that, like I said, those are things I do. I do the inner child work. I do a lot of deep introspection. I do a lot of rain meditation. I'm sure you're familiar with Tara Brach and her recognize, accept, investigate, or recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. Same kind of thing you're talking about. Really, is that nurturing that inner child and those old traumas. And like I said, it's worked a little, not as much as I would like, but I think maybe it's because I have this goal set in mind of healing. It's like I have this goal ahead of me, this thing that I view as attainable, and I'm sure it is. But I think as long as I stay focused on the goal, I'm probably not going to achieve the goal. So sometimes the mind can actually get in the way of the process.
Right.
And that's when it comes down to complete surrender. And it's like loving even that part of you that's maybe trying to control the situation. And, so it's like, what? I accept that part of me. I accept that part of me. I love me, and try doing this exercise that I just mentioned before, the inner child work, and just having a chat with the inner child.
Right.
And another exercise I usually like to do is visualizing yourself as you are today, and going into the room as your highest, most divine self, and talking to the Justin in that room with all his feelings, talking to him. What would you say to the Justin in that room? What advice would you give him? And as your highest self.
Right.
And then getting Justin to climb a mountain, and then just visualizing, screaming out anything he's still carrying within himself, just screaming out any pain from the past, any energy that's just not aligned with his truth, just getting it out, just getting and screaming this pain out.
Yeah.
And once this is done and the healing is done, it's just merging back together with the higher self, and you'll find it's going to work wonders. It's going to work wonders.
Yeah.
It changed my life, because I wasn't always like this, Justin.
Right.
I wasn't always like this.
Yeah, I think like we were talking about earlier, everyone's born like this. And then, just through causes and conditions, we get locked in these narratives, whether about ourselves and they can be, it can be absolutely detrimental. It can be detrimental to every aspect of life, from self-worth to, getting the things you want out of life. My biggest fear is being trapped in a job that I hate and a life that I don't want,
Yeah, there's fears. I want to tell you something. I once had a client come to me, and she took out, honestly, 3 massive A4 sheets of paper, if not more. And she said, these are all the things that challenge me, that I'm afraid of. These are my fears. These are all the things I don't want. I was like, wow. And she said, I've been to so many different, people to try and help her. And she said, no one's been able to help me. And she goes, I take them this list and no one. And I said, you know what? How about you just put that list away? Instead of focusing on what it is you fear and what it is you don't want, what brings you joy? What is it that you do want? And let's start really focusing in on that, and really let's amplify the energy, and let's put energy into that instead of because if you're going to focus on what you fear and what you don't want in life, guess what? You're still putting energy into it.
Right.
Regardless of the fact that you fear it or you resist it or you don't want it, you're putting energy into it.
Right.
So let's focus that energy instead on what you want and what brings you joy and what would you like to see in your life. And I go, that's what we're going to do, because it's feeding the right energy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can completely agree with that also. And that is what I try to do. That's what I try to do with this podcast this is, one thing that I actually enjoy doing. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy spreading a positive message to other people. No matter how down I feel about myself at the moment, I try to get good information like you were giving us today out to other people. Because if I can, reduce the amount of suffering in the world just a little bit, that makes me feel a little better. Now, if I could reduce my own suffering, that would be optimal. But
Thank you for doing this, Justin. And you are doing a great big service for humanity by sharing. So thank you.
Well, you are very welcome. Like I said, it's something that I enjoy doing. Unfortunately, I get wrapped up in the whole numbers game of it a lot. The performance aspect of it, like, oh, it's not doing what I would like it to do, and then it becomes more of a hindrance to me, like even doing the things that I like to do, because I feel like they're not progressing at the rate that I would like to see them progress at, or progressing at all in some cases, and so then that just feeds more into that, that negativity bias of like, well, of course it's not working, nothing ever works, and then it just back in that constant feedback loop of negativity and self-hatred.
Oh, it's so funny how our self-talk can really shape things. And I actually found this out because most of the time we're not aware that we're doing it.
Right.
Our own self-talk, and it's about changing that CV.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't even really conscious of doing it for the majority of my life. And it's only recently that I really was able to stop the negative self-talk. And then for some reason, I don't even know what it was. Today, I just kind of flared back up again, and I was like, "Ooh, that's ugly." Like I to be honest with you, I almost didn't even want to do this podcast because I just wasn't really in a good headspace. I was like, I don't want to bring this like negative energy to the podcast. But after we had our little conversation and we talked for a little bit, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is kind of reflecting off of exactly where I'm at, and I think this could be beneficial not only for me, but for my listeners, because I'm coming from a genuine place of this is exactly how I'm feeling right now. And you are probably the perfect person to be talking to at this moment. So, there's synchronicity and serendipity and the universe aligning things, even though like I said, I don't blame things or on the universe anymore. But I will give it props on this one. So it definitely lined us up at the right time. And I think it's a really poignant conversation because, as I said, I know I'm not alone in this.
No, you know what, Justin? Like I said, I wasn't always like this. I too held a lot of issues of self-worth. In fact, I didn't think I could paint. Going back to even high school, my teacher would come and tell me that when it came to art, I would never succeed. I would never succeed when it came to art. I was always getting in trouble. I had to stand outside the room, go to the principal's office, because I was always doing things that I wasn't supposed to do. Like back then, bringing my stereo, putting the doors on and throwing paint on my canvas. It just wasn't, seen as proper. I had to sit there and plan my artwork. And
right.
I said, no, I don't want to plan it. I just want to express what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
No, I can get in trouble for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I got married, I was in a relationship where when I would try to be creative, like, pick up paint and try, my partner at the time would walk past and go, what are you doing? You can't paint. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And it would just, my canvas would end up gray or black, and it would end up in the bin because I believed, I can't. I'm not good enough.
Right.
I can't do this. Who am I kidding? I didn't go to art school. I even tried.
Right.
I'll never amount to anything when it comes to art. This was told to me. Yeah, I believe it. And so things were constantly validating the fact that I'm not creative. And I spent a lot of my years feeling that way, Justin, feeling like I honestly didn't know who I was. I was lost. I was confused. I didn't have purpose. I was envious of anyone who had purpose. I didn't feel like I was succeeding in anything. I felt like I was going around in circles. It came to a point where I honestly, I was married. I had a beautiful home with 2 kids, and to the outside world, it seemed picture perfect.
Right.
But on the inside, I felt empty. I felt like I had no direction, purpose. I felt like there was something huge missing from my life. Mm. And I was really just sad.
I totally feel that.
And my life honestly changed. It changed with the blade of grass. It changed with the blade of grass.
You want to explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, one day I had enough, and I was just so, when you just get tired of feeling sick and tired, you get tired
for sure.
of the daily grind, you feel hopeless, helpless.
Oh yeah.
You're sick of it all.
I'm very well acquainted with those feelings.
Well, I'd reached that point, and I'd reached that point, but I was still looking after 2 kids.
Right.
And I'm still in a marriage and doing all the chores, but I was feeling like that. Mm. And so my kids were entertained. They were watching a movie, and I went outside, and I just sat on the grass. And I wasn't spiritual at all back then, Justin. I grew up in a very Christian sort of a background. Mm. I mean, we weren't even allowed to go into crystal shops. So I sat on the grass, and I was just, when you just look at something and zone out.
Yeah.
Right? You just kind of just want to freaking zone out. You just don't want to be here.
Oh, for sure.
I happened to be looking at a blade of grass, and I was starting to zone out, like, oh my God, I just don't want to be here. And I was just looking at that blade of grass, just feeling really just like deflated. And that's when the most extraordinary thing took place, in that moment of absolute hopelessness and despair. And when I just gave up, I gave up. And I was looking at that blade of grass. Instead of zoning out, I started to zone in. And the more I looked at that blade of grass, these questions started to arise in my mind of, how is that grass, why is that grass green? How are those lines so perfect? And I was looking at the way the sun was hitting the angle, and I couldn't answer the questions that were arising in my mind about that blade of grass. And I was like so overwhelmed with all these questions and awe for this blade of grass. I felt literally like something popped inside my heart space. Like I felt this pop, and I just started to cry. And I just started to cry and cry and cry. And I just kept on saying, oh my God, thank you for this beautiful blade of grass. It is the most beautiful blade of grass I've ever seen. It's extraordinary. And I couldn't stop crying. Honestly, if someone, was to peep over the fence, they would probably think I was crazy. I was a crazy woman crying and saying, thank you for this blade of grass.
Right.
But I was just crying. And I was so overwhelmed with complete love, appreciation, and awe for the single blade of grass. I couldn't contain it. And as I was sitting there, and awe started to fill my chest, and gratitude started to fill my chest. In that moment, I started to feel the craziest sensation with, it's third eye, but back then I didn't know it was third eye. And I was like, what's going on with this space in my head, in my forehead? And it started to tingle and vibrate. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm feeling so good right now. I don't care what's going on with that space. And then I started to see all these colors, like very psychedelic sort of colors. I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I'm feeling so high with gratitude right now. It's fine. I'm seeing colors. It's vibrating. It's cool. And that's when I saw this woman, the spirit, walk through the back fence in this beautiful flowing dress, just a simple, like a beigey sort of white dress, long hair, no shoes. And she walked and she sat on the grass next to me, and we proceeded to have a 4-hour conversation about life. And this was my first time seeing spirit. And I didn't realize that I was on such a high vibration in that moment, because I had so much gratitude for a simple blade of grass, that it had caused my vibration to rise at such a high frequency that I was tuning into the higher vibes. And that's when I asked her, I said, you know what? I said, why am I here? Like, seriously, why am I here? Is it for this? Is it this house? Is it, because if it's this, I don't see why I'm here. Like, what's the point? What's the purpose? And she looked at me and she said, you have come here to create. And it's going to be your creative endeavors that you're going to help others find their path.
Wow.
And for a split moment, I was taken to that memory back in high school when I was put down by my teacher. And but I quickly, snapped out of it, and I thought, wow. And basically after that, I did my first ever painting I finished, because I could never finish anything.
Right.
And it continued to flow. I started to hear spirit. I started to paint. Visions and dreams started to happen. And basically my cards are reflections of those experiences that happened after the blade of grass, and including the blade of grass.
Right.
Because one of the best, and this is what I also, speak about in my workshops and to my clients, one of the fastest, easiest ways to raise our vibration is through gratitude. It's that simple. Right. So what happened in that backyard was, without even realizing it, because I didn't know what I was doing, I just felt that awe and gratitude for that blade of grass. And it was as though, Justin, I could see the whole universe in that single blade of grass. It's like everything just made sense in that moment. And instead of zoning out, I became completely present. And when we become so completely present in love, in gratitude and awe, it's like we get that clarity.
Wow. Yeah, that's a crazy story. Yeah.
I have many.
I've felt that calling, like, that was my purpose, was to do something, to create. That's why I've throughout my life always attempted creative endeavors. Like I said, I was a touring musician for a while. I used to write for a few different publications. So I, was a journalist for a while. Now I'm doing this podcast. So I have all these points in my life where I've done, attempted creative endeavors, and I don't know, for one reason or another, they just never seem to pan out. So
But see, this is the thing.
it kind of got to the point where I was like, maybe I'm just lying to myself. Maybe that's not what I'm really here to do. Maybe I'm here to just go punch a time clock until I'm dead.
But this is the thing, Justin. It all comes back down to intention, right? So with me, I remember when I started to paint, the partner I was with at the time, he would walk past and go, "Why are you doing it? This is after I start to really paint and do artwork after artwork." He goes, "Why are you doing all this?" He said, "It's not making money." He goes, "You're not selling it, so why are you doing it?" He goes, "Do something that's going to bring in money," and this was his constant message to me.
Yeah.
And I would be like, "I'm not doing it for the money. I'm not doing it for the fame. I'm not doing it for all of that." I said, "I'm doing it because it brings me joy. It brings me happiness.
Right.
That's why I'm doing it." And I think this is a huge part of the creative process. It's
I would agree.
do what brings us joy. And everything else, the more joy we can attain from whatever it is we're doing in terms of our creative endeavors, the more our vibration is raised and things will work out. But if we have perhaps a goal or intention, I'm going to do it, but I need it to bring in money. I need it to do this and do this. We are actually... it's almost like we're sabotaging or blocking the flow.
Right. Well, I think that's where we get into expectation versus preference. Like if you're expecting it to make money, then it's probably never going to make money, but I think, everybody has preferences. And I think that both expectations and preferences can kind of get us into trouble. I would prefer to be able to make money doing my creative pursuits. Sure, I would prefer that, but that's just simply not the case. I mean, in most of the cases, save for the playing music, and even that, if you look at deferred wages and time invested, I probably lost money on that as well. But I didn't do it because I was making a lot of money. If you look at the word success, when people think of the music career, by all rights, I was not successful, but I was able to support myself doing it. And that was success to me, and that was all that was optimal for me at the time, was like, I'm doing what I love to do and I'm able to support myself by doing what I love to do. So I think if you go into it with, without expectations,
yeah.
But I think
I call that successful.
Well, exactly. But I think there's always preference. See, with the podcast, like I make $0 off of this. I spend money putting this thing out, Yeah. So it's clearly a labor of love, or I would have quit a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, would I like it to make money? Absolutely. For sure. Why wouldn't I? I would be lying to both myself and you if I said that was not a preference that I had. But is that the expectation? Absolutely not. I never expected this thing to do anything, and all of my expectations have been met and exceeded.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I was having the same conversation with someone I know the other day, and she was like, "I want to do something creative." And, each time I would suggest something, she goes, "Oh, but, how is it going to make money? And it needs to make this money." I was like, no. You're stopping the creative process by thinking along those lines. And it's like, take away making money completely out of your head. Let's talk about what brings you joy, what brings you passion, and let's focus on that. And I said, trust me, whatever brings you joy and passion, just do that. Because then you're going to get to the point where you're going to want to share that with others. Then you're going to share that with others with no expectation of getting back. But in doing so, you're going to get back, and opportunities will flow your way. It's just going to happen. Like in terms of, for instance, with my art, I started doing it because it was, it was something I moved into after the Blade of Grass. Story chapter, and each artwork was reflecting a different chapter in my life, be it self-worth, gratitude, strength, facing the shadow self. Each time I would have a dream, a vision, an experience, I would somewhat put it into the artwork. And then I got to a stage where I felt like, I really would like to share this with others because it means so much to me and it helps me so much that I'd like to share it with others. And that's when I started to do stalls. And again, no expectation. All I wanted to do was share it with others. That's all I wanted to do. So others could, if I could somehow help others on their journey by sharing my journey, that's all I wanted.
Right.
And that's how the publishers found me. And by having a stall out there, I also met, different people through that, and which helped me with different, which took me on different pathways and opportunities, but it was never me looking for it. All I wanted to do, my intention, actually, see, I get lost because I get so passionate about my story. Just going back for a moment, there was a time in my life that I was very afraid. I stood by the wall and I wanted to follow my heart. Okay. And my heart was saying that I wished to be of service to humanity. And I really didn't know how or which creative way I was going to do that. I didn't know how. I knew I enjoyed painting and I wanted to follow my heart. And, but my mind was telling me that where I was at that time in my life was safe. It was comfortable. It was secure.
Yeah.
Don't leave it. Don't leave it. You'll be stupid to leave what is safe, secure, and comfortable. But my heart was saying, no, I want to do this. But my mind was saying, that's not going to make you money at all. That's not a secure path.
Right. Yeah. Trust me. I'm right there with you on that one.
So it was a battle between mind and heart, Justin. And at that time, I had no money. Okay, I was looking after my kids. So my husband at the time was the main income earner. And my heart was telling me that part of the process of being of service to humanity was leaving that marriage. But of course, I couldn't see anything else after that. I didn't know what was going to happen after that.
Right. Yeah.
And my mind wanted a step-by-step guide. Okay, well, then what happens next? And how? What am I going to do? What am I going to do to make money? What am I going to do for work? Blah, blah, blah. Right. I don't have those answers. Right?
Yeah.
So it was very scary, Justin. And do you know what Spirit said to me? And I was crying. I was looking at this blank wall going, oh my God, this is where I'm at, mind versus heart. And Spirit said to me, if you follow your heart with the intention to serve, always will be look after you. You'll always be supported. Food will always be on the table. Your bills will always be paid, and your children will always be looked after. It all comes down to following your heart with the intention to serve.
Right.
We will look after the rest. You don't have to think of anything else, worry about anything else. And in that moment, Justin, right? In that moment, when they said this, I could have gone two ways. And one way was, okay, this is my imagination talking to me. Who am I kidding? God, I got to be safe. I got to be secure, right? I'm talking to myself right now.
Yep.
It'll be silly for me to take that path and take that leap of faith, right? Because this is me talking to myself.
Right.
Or I could have surrendered and completely trusted this voice that I was hearing within me. So in that moment, I made that decision. You know what? Fine. I choose to surrender.
Right.
I choose to trust with absolute faith, even though I don't have $1 to my name right now. So doing this is really risky. But right now in this moment, I choose to surrender and have faith and trust the process and trust you, Spirit, that I will always be looked after. And so I've made that decision to leave something that was, to be honest, it was good. It was secure. It was a good marriage. It was safe, secure, comfortable, all creature comforts. But I knew it wasn't the path that I needed to be on to grow.
Right.
And I took that leap of faith with nothing.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you got to do. Sometimes that's all you can do.
And Justin,
take that leap of
Spirit,
faith.
yeah, and Spirit kept their word. I've been very well looked after. Within weeks, I get a call. I actually get a call. Like here in Australia, you've got the government, you've got Centrelink, and I never used to be on that. I get a call from them out of the blue telling them that they owe me money because I never, ever, ever claimed anything when it came to the kids.
Huh.
Like how you get little bonuses here and there when they're born.
Right.
I just never did it. I forgot. I just never thought about it. I get a call out of the blue telling me that they owe me this big lump sum amount of money for all those years. And I'm like, wow, guys, you're a really good spirit. And this continuously happened throughout the years. Spirit continuously blessed me through different means, and I didn't even see it coming, Justin.
Right.
And this was all to do with surrendering, trust in the process, having faith, but keep following your heart and keep your intentions on, I'm here to serve. All else will be looked after. Trust the process.
Wow, I really needed to hear that right now. Because I'm actually in one of those spots right now where it's like, man, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next month, and things are not great. And I just keep doing what I'm doing and just trying to keep faith that things are going to be okay.
Oh my God, yeah, Justin. It's trusting. And you know what, guys? Having a word with Spirit. Guys, you know where I'm at. I'm doing this work. My intention is to serve, to share the love. I go, I trust and I surrender to you right now. All my worries, all my fears, all my doubts of being looked after. And I trust you to support me because this all comes down to the base chakra, and it's
right.
Trusting. This is one of the things we need to move through with the base, and it's trusting and having faith that we are supported. That we are supernaturally supported by the earth, by the universe, by God, source, whatever you wish to call it. But it's that lesson of support. It's like the roots of a tree. If the roots are not deep, how is the tree going to grow and the branches going to reach the infinite?
Yeah.
So our roots need to be deep, and that means fully surrendering that we are completely supported. And so it's faith. It's having trust and faith.
Yeah. I can't help but think, what there's a bit of fear involved with that. I mean, even it's hard getting to that place of faith when there is, security on the line. I mean,
absolutely. Hello. I had 2 kids I had to look after, and I had no money.
Yeah.
How was I going to pay the bills?
I don't have kids, and I have no money, and I'm worried. So I can only imagine what you felt like,
I was in this situation where I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money saved up. He was the main income earner. What was I thinking, leaving something so secure? I had everything. What was I going to do? Justin, I didn't even have a plan in terms of, I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew was I wanted to be of service. That's all I knew.
Well, I think nobody really can fully expect to achieve their dreams as long as they're focused on security. That's
the biggest block.
Yeah, it really is, because you get so wrapped up in the creature comforts of life and the security aspect, that root chakra security aspect of life, that you don't take risks. And if you don't take risks, you don't get any reward, but that can be a really hard place to that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to reconcile.
I tell you, it's with every energy center, with every chakra, there's a mountain that we need to climb. And when we get to that top of the mountain, a leap of faith is required, Justin.
Right.
A leap of faith is required at each mountain that we traverse. And part of taking that leap of faith is you're going to have fear. Okay? You're going to have fear because we want those safe, our ego wants that safety net. We want to know, hey, what's going on?
Right.
We want to know there's a backup plan and it's like, and I tell you, with every chakra, there's a mountain which requires faith and trust.
Yeah,
and you know what?
You ain't lying. Lots of faith and lots of trust.
Oh my God. And this is exciting though, Justin, because what would life be like without it, without the fear? Come on, it's exciting.
Right.
It gives us this challenge, like, okay, I feel fear, but I'm going to freaking do it anyway. Life is short.
I feel like it's aging me rapidly.
It's like, hey, I choose to be fearless. You know, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? I'm homeless. I live on the land. You know, the earth is my bed. The sky is my blanket. You know, we see stars at night. What's the worst that could happen? You know, and it's like, I choose love over fear. Every moment, make that conscious choice. I choose to be a fearless warrior, and I choose love. Whatever choice, whatever decision, I choose love. You know, and you'll find by doing that, you move through your fears, things open up, doors open up. It just happens because these are our lessons. These are our lessons, Justin.
Right.
Choosing love over fear.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's literally the message I try to put out every day. You know, it's just, you know, just love each other and just be kind. And like I said, I tell everyone to love themselves. I'm still working on loving myself. So I'm kind of a hypocrite in that sense. If I'm telling everybody else to do it and I still struggle to do it myself. It's not that I don't put the work in. It's just that, I'm not quite there yet. I think I need to have a talk with younger me a little more. I think he's still feeling a little neglected.
Yeah, he needs a bit of love. You know, he needs a good hug and a good cuddle, you know, and a really good heart to heart there, Justin. And another thing to be also conscious of is our words. And I'm always, you know, telling my kids this and my friends, our words are so powerful. You know, shamans believe we practice sorcery every moment with our words because they're that powerful. And words like, you know, like this is something I had a conversation with someone I know. They were constantly saying the words, oh, I feel so bad for them. Oh, I feel so bad. Oh, the poor thing. Oh, I feel so. This was something that was just part of their conversation all the time. Oh, I feel so guilty for them. Oh, I feel so bad. And I'm like, seriously. And this person found it really hard to shed weight. They had, you know, she had quite a bit of weight on and it wasn't her natural state, you know, and she kept on wondering, why am I finding it so difficult to shed this weight? And I said, let's reflect on that for a moment. You're constantly saying things like, I feel so bad. I said, where do you think that energy is going?
Right.
Like, really, you are taking on board everyone's energy. You're feeling so bad for this and that. You're taking on all that energy.
Yeah.
You know, our words such as I struggle. You mentioned struggle before with this, or, you know, there was a few different words you've mentioned. Words are so powerful. You know, I recently had a word with my daughter because she kept on saying, oh, I feel so bad. I was like, no, can you please change that?
Right.
Really? Now?
Right. Reframe that.
Mom.
Yeah. 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 I see. Like I said, I was really bad about that for the longest time. The negative self-talk and just, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like a failure, blah, blah, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it took me a long time. And to be honest, it's really only recently that I've been able to kick that habit for the most part. Like I had a few, like maybe 3 good weeks where I didn't do any of that. And then just recently, it's just kind of, I don't know what it is, you know, I can't attribute it to anything. I'm not sure exactly what triggered it, but it just kind of flared back up today, and it didn't last very long, and it wasn't near as bad as it used to be, but it definitely happened. And, you know, I got it back into the same old narrative of, you know, I feel like a failure, I'm a loser, blah, 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 you know, classic case, you know.
Oh, and like I said, you're not the only one. I knew someone, it was so, when he would be, well, he thought he was by himself doing something, it got so bad that I could hear him actually talking. You know, like, oh, he'd hurt himself, or he cut himself, or he banged his foot. He would say things like, oh, you're such an idiot.
Yeah, so stupid.
Oh,
yeah.
You're stupid. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, God, you know, and just things like that. And I would catch him and I'd be like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, look, I just banged my. I was like, well, why are you calling yourself an idiot? Or why are you talking to yourself like that? If okay, you did something wrong or you didn't nail something right.
I
Why are you
I
putting
think it
yourself
just goes
down
back.
for?
I think it just goes back to childhood. I think
That's right.
it goes back to those are things that are ingrained in you because those are things people have told you in the past.
Absolutely. And then you
Yeah.
thought about it, and it's like, oh, this is what.
Your parents' voice becomes your inner
Yes.
voice.
Yes, and it's like his parents did that to him. And although his parents aren't around anymore, I said, you realize, oh, your parents not here to do that to you, but guess what? You're still doing that to yourself. Come on. It's now up to you to make that conscious decision to yourself to stop doing that. You don't need to carry that energy that, was given to you when you were a child.
Right.
Because your inner child is still copying it. You're still telling that inner child, you're silly, you're stupid, you're an idiot. I said, you didn't like it as a child, correct? When your parents did that, I said, well, your inner child still doesn't like it. I said, it's time for you to, to be conscious about what you're doing, and give that child that love.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that's one of those things that just takes a while to break the habit of. For me, it took me, like I said, most of my life to stop doing that. And then one day I just made the conscious decision to stop. Like I said, today is the first real day that it's kind of flared up and reared its ugly head again in the past few weeks. Like I said, this is a very recent thing for me. Stopping that inner critic voice and the negative self-talk, and and ultimately, like we were saying, it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. Because you're coming from that place and that energy, so everything you do is going to be affected by that energy, and it's going to take on that energy. But it can be so hard to turn that off when you've been doing it for so long.
Well, okay. You know what? My recommendation is, and don't try to turn it off, because sometimes that can also cause, it can be hard to do that.
Right. Just
but
have passion for it.
Well, just focus on maybe some great inner talk, and build on that. For instance, I do things like, I'm a goddess of love and light. And this is something I used to do all the time. I'm a goddess of love and light. Right. I'm patient. So it's like, instead of trying to switch something off, maybe just
reframe it into a positive.
Reframe it. Yeah, like reframe it, but also bring in some new healthy, self-talk.
Right. Change the narrative to the positive, the negative.
Like
when those negative feelings arise, replace them with a positive affirmation.
Yeah, that's right. Like, for instance, you might say, "Oh, I'm good."
That's exactly what I was doing. When I would get in those moments where I would normally start the negative self-talk, that's when I would go into just positive affirmations. We won't get into them, but that's when I would tell myself positive things rather than negative things. Like, even if it was just as simple as like, you're okay, you're doing all right. Don't be too hard on yourself.
What's funny, because I didn't realize I was doing the same thing, and this is a few years back. But I caught myself, and I didn't realize I was doing it. And for me, the aspect, because I had a bit of a hard chapter going back a few years. I burnt out, Justin. I was doing too many things. I was working too much, and I wasn't doing enough self-care, enough grounding.
Right.
I was just dedicating myself into helping others, but I wasn't looking after myself. And I went through this chapter of a burnout, and it really kind of shook me up a little, because I've never been burnt out before. So I was like, oh my God, why I feel so tired? Like, what is going on? My life literally changed overnight. And then I found myself having that self-talk of, oh my goodness, I'm tired. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm not feeling healthy. I'm overweight. I'm feeling, and, every time someone would call or message me, how you feeling? I'm like, oh, I feel really bad, or I feel really tired, or I feel like crap. Huh. And I didn't realize, Justin, that I was actually creating my life, my story with those words. And I continued to do that. And one day my sister, me and my sister, we bounce off each other a lot. And she said, what are you doing? She goes, every day I call you and you tell me this. I was like, yeah, I do, don't I? I was like, but that's what I'm feeling, you know? She's like, well, you got to stop because it all starts with the mind. I was like, yes, you're right. I am doing that. And it was like I had this epiphany. I was like, I didn't realize. I wasn't conscious that I was doing that. I just wasn't conscious. It was just like,
right,
you know, everyday language. Oh, yeah, I feel like that.
You get, like I said, you get so used to doing it, it just becomes, that's your normal habit, you know, it just becomes repetition at that point.
So the first step in changing it is becoming aware and conscious that you're doing it. That is the first step.
Right.
And so each time, and it didn't take too long, but each time she'd call, I'd be very conscious when she'd ask me, well, how do you feel? And I'd go to say, I feel like, and I'd stop. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling a lot better today. And I kept on doing that. And the funny thing was, by my words, you know, I did start feeling better. I started feeling better and better. And I noticed, though, I think this is where the ego comes into play. I started to exercise and go for my walks. And I'd be doing my walks and the ego would come in and go, oh, no, but you know what? You don't feel great. You know, who are you kidding? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, who are you trying to prove? You know you're not feeling that great. Why are you trying to pretend you're feeling great? Come on.
Are you familiar with any aspect of Buddhism?
Look, not yes and no, not fully, completely. But I do appreciate the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism. Yes.
Okay. Within the Buddhist narrative, there's the king of the underworld, or the demons, Mara. And Mara, when the Buddha is attempting enlightenment, when he's sitting about to become enlightened, you know, he's on his journey to enlightenment, Mara shows up in all these different forms to try to hinder the Buddha from becoming enlightened. They're classically referred to as like the 5 hindrances. That's how he shows up. It's craving, aversion, lethargy, restlessness, and doubt. And that last one, doubt, is what you were saying is exactly how he showed up to the Buddha when he was trying to achieve enlightenment. He was like, "What do you think you're doing? Do you think you're good enough? You'll never achieve enlightenment." So it's the same thing. And it's these things, these hindrances are exactly what we're talking about. These are the things that are installed in childhood to protect it's the mind protecting the heart.
Absolutely. That's so true. And like, that's exactly what I was feeling, Justin. But because I was conscious, it was like, oh my God, what is this voice? This is not my truth. This is not my voice. I'm here walking and this voice keeps on coming up going, oh, come on, who are you kidding? Right. And that's when I was like, no. And every time this voice would come up, I would take back the reins and say, no, I am whole. I'm healthy. I am perfect. I'm fit. I am strong. You know, and I would continuously do that. And each day this voice would try to bring me down until it's just stopped. It just went quiet because I had fed the stronger, the true me, you know, so much that eventually that other voice starts to dim down. It's like, again, the 2 wolves, or how I like to describe it as 2 plants.
Right.
You know, there's the 2 plants within us, and it's like, which one are we going to nurture? Which one are we going to water? It doesn't mean we need to kill off the other plant. That plant's there to help us grow. But if we just feed the plant that we wish to grow, the other plant won't grow. It's going to be there, but it's not going to grow.
Well, you know, they say that the mind has a tendency to incline itself to what you surround it with. So if you surround it with positive things, you know, positive affirmations, positive people, positive experiences, ultimately you're going to have a more positive outlook, more, you know, just a more positive mindset. If you surround it with negative things and negative people and negative experiences, I mean, you know, the same would be true, that you're going to have a more negative experience just because that is what you're surrounding yourself with. So that's the way the mind is going to go.
Absolutely. And, you know, like with everything that's been going on, you know, around the world, look, I chose not to listen to the news.
Oh yeah, for sure. Me too. I gave up on the news a long time ago.
Yeah. Like I don't watch TV. I don't listen to the news because I
Same.
just found that there's, there was just so many,
Look, life's hard enough. I don't need any outside extra stressors in my life. I've got enough stressors in my life to deal with. I don't need any extra.
Exactly. And I just found there was just too many seeds of fear that, that would come in from the media. And I was like,
all
I
it
don't
is.
need. Exactly. I was like, you're right. I've got enough on my plate. I don't need that energy.
Right.
I choose not to take on board that energy.
Right.
Instead, I choose to nurture the light in me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
And-
I got, like I said, I quit the news a long time ago. That shit's way too depressing. I can't even deal with it. It's too much. Just the fear mongering and just the commodification of fear. It disgusts me as somebody who really tries to put a message of positivity and hope and love into the world. It kills my spirit so much. I can't take part in it. And I used to be a journalist, but
hey, it sounds like you've had a very interesting life, Justin. Music and journalism. Now this is fantastic.
There's a lot more to it than that.
Wow.
I was also a childhood cancer survivor. I'm a recovering heroin addict.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You've got a story to tell, Justin. You've got such an interesting life. You've been on so many wonderful adventures. Like, you should write a book.
That is not the first time I've heard that. But I think I probably need to work on that whole self-love thing before I attempt to write a book. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to be happy with anything I write.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just being honest, I think until I am able to further traverse some of these issues, writing a book's probably not I do want to write a book, but I am also cognizant of the fact that I'm probably not ready to write a book yet.
Okay.
It's definitely on the agenda.
Yes, divine timing. Again, it's just trust in the process. When you're meant to do it, you'll do it. You'll just feel it. You'll feel like, you know what, it's time.
Right.
Because it does sound like you've gone through some amazing life-changing experiences, and you do have a lot to share, and you've got an amazing story.
It's definitely an interesting one.
Oh, sorry, what instrument did you play?
Oh, Lord. Let's see. Well, I initially started playing guitar. Then I picked up the bass. Then I picked up the drums. Then I play piano a bit. I play the banjo, harmonica.
Wow!
When I was actually touring, I was touring as a one-man blues band, playing guitar and harmonica and singing and playing drums with my feet.
Justin, you're amazing, and you had issues of self-worth. My gosh!
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. I can't explain it. I just can't explain it.
Very, 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 very strange. You are very successful. I can't wrap my head around it.
I'm rich in life experiences, which is really all it amounts to.
But I would be jumping for joy if I could just play one instrument. Like, that would be it. I'd be like, I'd leave this plane of existence thinking I've achieved so much just mastering one instrument.
Right. Well, no time like the present.
Like, you can play so many. My goodness, you're so hard on yourself.
Yeah, I'm pretty hard on myself.
Like, you know what? You need to look in that mirror and say, I am extraordinary. I am magnificent. I'm actually really amazing. Wow. Like, honestly, this needs to be your daily mantra.
Right. I'm gonna take your advice on that, and I'm gonna work on it. My like I said, I'm in recovery at the moment. My sponsor had me do a homework assignment. I was to write "I love you, Justin" on every mirror in my house, so that every time I walked by it, I would see that and repeat that to myself.
Yes,
that's something that I've been doing for a little while now. And like I said, I've been doing different things, different for lack of a better term, healing modalities as, to kind of get to that place of self-love and self-acceptance and feeling worthy, and like I said, it's definitely better than it used to be, but it's still, I know it's not where it should be and where it needs to be, because I know people that do genuinely love themselves, and it's like, wow, that must, like, they look like they're just having a great time.
Something that could help as well is sometimes it can be hard to love ourselves completely, and so we could love things that we consume. For instance, if we were to have a glass of water, would it be easy for you to completely and unconditionally love that water?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so start with that water. By loving that water and putting so much love into that water, as I love you unconditionally. That water can't do anything to you. It can't hurt you, can't betray you, it can't leave you. It's just simply water. And by just unconditionally loving that water and you drinking that water then merges in with the ocean of your body. And you'll find that that love spreads throughout your body. So whatever it is you consume, put it into your body with absolute unconditional love, and it just also, it helps expand that love and light. Just little things like that. It all helps.
I'm gonna put that into practice. I'm gonna try that. Hey, at this point, I'm willing to try anything.
Could I share with you a vision of self-worth I had? Because like I said, I had some challenges with self-worth when I started to, initially when I first started to paint.
Right.
I still had the voice in my head. I wasn't selling my artworks or anything at that stage. I was just painting. But every now and then a voice would come up and say, who are you kidding? You don't really know what you're doing. And, you didn't go to art school, so you're not doing it correctly. You're not doing it properly. And, I dismissed it and I continued painting, going, I don't really care. I'm just going to paint.
Right.
And one day I was painting and my third eye started to buzz. So basically after that, I started to realize every time I would do that, it was almost like a telephone call from spirit. So I would drop what I was doing, I would close my eyes, and I would tune into the frequency of whatever that energy was. And so anyway, my third eye started to just buzz and started to meditate, and I found myself going deep into a meditative state. And I found myself in space. And I saw this massive cathedral-like building. And there were all these souls outside the building. And I saw this red carpet leading into the building. I was like, oh, I got to see what's in this building. And so I followed the red carpet in, and I saw at the end of the red carpet, I saw the most exquisite, beautiful golden chair filled with gemstones. And it was just absolutely exquisite. And I was like, wow. Wow, someone important is coming. Like, wow, I need to hang around like people outside. Like, whoa. So I decided to go stand next to the chair so I could have a good viewing point for whoever this chair was for, whoever was walking into that cathedral. And I stood there waiting. And that's when my guide showed up in the vision, and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm waiting. So I'm waiting for what? I'm waiting for the person to come and sit in that chair.
Right. And
she goes, that chair's for you. I'm like, what? She goes, that's your chair. And she goes, can you just sit in that chair? My guide had a bit of a sense of humor, just sit in the chair. Right. So I sat in the chair and I kept on moving around because I didn't feel like I was worthy to sit in this golden chair. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. I'm not sure. I'm supposed to be sitting here. And she looked at me and she said, this is your chair. It's been your chair right from birth. And I was like sitting there, I was like, fine, okay, fine, I'll sit in this chair. And then the people that were outside the cathedral made their way in. And I was like, oh, great, now I've got an audience. And they made their way in, and this is where it got a bit weird. They all bowed. I was like, okay, this is too much, too much. And I looked at my guide like, okay, yeah, right. It was hard enough getting into this chair. Now these people are bowing. Come on. And she said, oh, no, don't take this the wrong way. They're bowing because they care. She said, everyone in this room that is bowing to you, they already sit in their golden chair. They already have their golden chair, and they're only bowing to you to help you remember and to help you, to show you that this is your chair. They're bowing to you to recognize that this is your chair, but they all have their chair.
Yeah.
They all bow to you because they love you and they care. And I was like, wow, it was a huge, and then I came out of that vision and I sat there going, oh my Lord, that was like, it was like a moment of epiphany in terms of self-worth. And a song came into my head, and often when songs out of the blue pop into my head, I like to, I pay attention in case there's a message.
Right.
And the song that popped into my head was a song I had not heard since high school, Justin. You know that song by Whitney Houston, The Greatest Love of All?
I do know that song.
Well, I always thought that song was about children because I never really listened to it.
Right.
I wasn't the biggest Whitney Houston fan, but that song popped into my head. I was like, oh, that's weird. So then I jumped onto YouTube to the lyrics, and I sat there and I just bawled my eyes out when I started to read the lyrics of the song. It was all about the greatest love of all being inside of ourselves. And I sat there just crying, going, oh my God, all these years I thought that song was about kids. Like, wow, what?
Yeah, I didn't really even think about that. I've never analyzed the lyrics to that song, actually.
Oh my goodness, Justin.
But I'm going to have to go do that when we get done. Just because I want to see it now.
Oh, it's amazing. It talks about how we're always looking to others. We're always looking at others as heroes. We're always looking at others. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to that love being inside ourselves.
Right.
We are that hero. We are that light. We are that love.
Yeah.
And it's that coming back to love.
Yeah. That's the plan. That's the hope. Hopefully we can all get there.
That is the truth, Justin. That is our truth.
Right.
And like I mentioned earlier, that is our ultimate truth. And it's just peeling off the layers that are not real.
Right. It's getting back to that.
Getting back to our truth, the truth that we are love.
Yeah. Cool. Hopefully I can do that. Hopefully everyone can do that.
You absolutely can. You absolutely, oh my goodness, what can't you do with everything you've already done, achieved, gone through? My goodness, how could you even think for a moment? You can do anything.
I'd like to think so. It's seeming otherwise right now, but maybe that's just because I'm being impatient.
Patience. Oh yes, that's something I could work on. We all can work on a bit of patience. It's funny. This woman once told me she met someone, and this person said it's because this other person was channeling, and they said often humans always are in search of enlightenment, and but not realizing that they are light.
Right.
They're always searching outside themselves for enlightenment. They're always searching. But they are light. They are the light.
Right. Well, let's hope so. I agree with you. We absolutely are. It's just, I think that a lot of societal conditioning and, just like we've discussed several times during this conversation, childhood experiences and traumas kind of dull that light over time. And, sometimes you have to wipe the dust off in order to let the light shine.
Well, like in terms of childhood experiences and traumas, like for me, we've all gone through things.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody has.
Like my life hasn't been something that, like a Brady Bunch or anything like that. It's we've all had our traumas. We've all had crazy life experiences. A lot of us have. And, but it's about really just seeing it in a different light and seeing it in a different perspective. We can see it as hard, traumatic events, but if we go back and look at it, we can actually, I suppose, reframe it to a point where we can see, hey, because this is another vision I had, but I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to have had that opportunity to be with a parent like that, or had experienced that, because I am so much stronger for it.
Right.
I am so much wiser for it. It built and shaped my character, and it's so by taking that and using it as something that fuels us instead of something that anchors us to a denser energy, into a more 3D reality, we can change that. We can use that energy and to help us grow, to help us fly. So it's a matter of going back to each event in our life that caused us pain, and honestly changing how we view it. That's all we need to do, is change how we see it. Right. See it as an opportunity, see it as a blessing, see it as an experience. Like, a warrior has to go through his battles, right?
Right. It's a trial by fire.
But it makes him stronger. Like, I don't know, Rocky Rambo, but it makes us stronger. It shapes us. And like, who would we be without it? It's our story. It's not, and it's such a great story. It's a good book.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And we are the main character, right?
Yeah. And it's up to you to write your own story.
That's right. And it's up to us and how it turns out.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. Where can people find you at?
Well, I am, I've got my website online, at www.narianastarsia.com. I'm also on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so people can reach me through those means.
Excellent.
And my work is available at many different online bookstores and bookshops, Amazon.
Cool.
So it's all out there.
What books do you have out?
So it's the Oracle cards, the Cosmic reading cards, and the Blue Messiah reading cards, and the Mini Starseeds Oracle, which are all reflections of my journey, Justin. And I feel as though, and it's, although we all have different stories.
Right.
You have your story, I have mine. Everyone's got their story. Ultimately, we all go through the same lessons, just in a different way. Lessons of faith, trust, conditional love versus unconditional love, self-worth, all of that. We all go through the same lessons, but through different stories.
100%.
And so my oracle decks are a reflection of some of the lessons I've already moved through. And so I put my art and the writings in these oracle decks so that it could hopefully help another on their journey. So, it doesn't have to be so long.
Right.
They could get that insight and like, have that aha moment, and it just literally changed their life.
Well, awesome. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and just being of service. Like I don't think there's enough people that are of service. I think the world would be a better place. I don't necessarily know that it would be a utopia, but I don't know if a utopia is what we're looking for. So
that would be nice.
But just keep up all the great work, and like I said, thank you again. I really appreciate your time.
And thank you so much, Justin, for having me. And it's honestly been really lovely talking to you.
Thank you. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you as well.
And like I said before, you're an incredible soul. You're very, very talented, very multi-skilled. You should be literally, I did everything you did. I'd be jumping for joy every moment, every day. So thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for, being the soul that you are.
Oh, it's very sweet of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, I'm sure I will. I talk about quitting all the time, but I just keep going because I have faith. Shining. I have faith,
Just keep shining and keep sharing the love, Justin. Everything else will unfold in due time. Divine timing.
Absolutely.
Divine timing.
Let's hope so. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin.
I'm sure I will talk to you again.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thanks again to Nari Anastarsia for being on the show. If you enjoyed the episode, please go rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. This has been Dharma Junkie. Namaste.
Chaos is beautiful.